appears in every culture. Around the world, human sacrifice.
The entire concept of sacrifice is gory, it's messy, it's bloody.
We test the sacrifice methods to find out how they were done and why. One major reason, to make the crops grow.
It's a way of ensuring fertility. You know, life follows death.
And death is a necessary gift when life depends on pleasing the gods. The gods were never far away in the world of early man. Human life hung on by the merest thread, cut off at the smallest whim of divine displeasure. Yet even as death seemed so present, evidence shows that many early societies actually embraced it in an attempt to control their fate by performing human sacrifice to their gods.
Some of the oldest evidence we've got for human sacrifice goes back about 10,000 years to sites in southeast Turkey. They found more than 400 body parts piled up behind altars. On the altars, they found crystallized hemoglobin remains from human blood.
The most common reason for this ancient bloodshed was simple: fertility. Ancient people gave the gods death in exchange for life.
If we can make the gods happy, then they will make the ground fertile. So if we can please the gods, he will make our livestock multiply. He will make our crops grow.
No culture in the world traded blood for fertility more often than the Aztecs of central Mexico. (1510 AD). At the top of an Aztec pyramid, a captive warrior is thrown down on an altar soaked with blood.
The most precious gift in Aztec theology was human blood. They believe that blood is a gift given back to the sun to bring us heat and light and fertilizing energy.
That fertilizing energy is embodied in the sun god, Huitzilopochtli. His priest is a technician of death, armed with a knife of volcanic flint, sharper than a scalpel.
The priest would come up with a flint knife, rip in and rip the heart out. There was no cutting on the inside. It was supposed to be a smooth move where they pulled in and ripped the beating heart out.
The priest gives the still beating heart as an offering to the sun. The rituals were a symbolic attempt to control the violent acts of nature.
You have hurricanes coming through Mexico. You have earthquakes. You've had catastrophic diseases over this period of years. People are aware that previous civilizations have collapsed. They're also suffering from droughts, and there's a sense of instability, that things will be destroyed.
And to keep the world from being destroyed, the Aztecs looked for victims from neighboring tribes. Aztec armies would attack neighboring Mixtec and Zapotec tribes, bringing thousands of captives to feed the hungry sun god. According to Spanish conquistadors who arrived in 1519, Aztec temples across Mexico were awash in blood.
It's said that over a 3-day period, they sacrificed over 20,000 people, each one of them having their hearts pulled out. And that on the top of the temple, that the blood was ankle deep.
But are these stories true? The report would require 5 deaths every minute, non-stop for 72 hours. Even with all 5 sacrificial pyramids working full-time, that would mean cutting out a human heart every minute. Could the Aztecs kill that many, that fast? We're about to find out. This is Dr. Scott Nelson, a surgical pathologist. He is an expert in human soft tissue, surgery, and autopsy. Its victim, an anatomical model made of ballistics gel and a resin skeleton that exactly matches human tissue, flesh, and bone.
So the real question is, could an Aztec priest really remove the heart of his victim using a rather primitive instrument like this stone knife? Now, in surgery, when we have to access the chest cavity, we use powerful electric saws and a mechanical steel rib spreader to make enough space to get our instruments and hands in. So how is it that the Aztec priest could use this rather primitive knife? Well, first of all, realize that this knife is not just flint or stone, it's obsidian, which is volcanic glass. It's sharper than surgical steel. So for my first attempt, we're going to try the direct approach right through the chest wall. I'm going to start right here and cut off these soft tissues and muscles off of the chest wall so that I get to the point where I'm at the ribs and the cartilage. So you can see I'm reflecting the soft tissues and muscles off of the chest wall. Now I'm going to choose to make my cut into the chest cavity right at the border of the ribs and the cartilage. Now let's see if I can get through this.
Modern surgeons reach the heart by cutting directly through the rib cage. But this approach doesn't work with an obsidian blade.
Well, it's really hard. I'm cutting it, but I'm actually breaking my knife as I go. So I'm really making no progress here. I think I could work on this for several minutes and never really get anywhere. And there were eyewitnesses, both Aztec and Spanish, that said the priest was able to do this in a matter of less than 2 minutes. How could they do it with this knife? I obviously can't do it. Does that mean the legend is not true? Let me try another way. If we go below the rib cage, here at the solar plexus, we can completely avoid the bones. It makes it a lot easier to get in. It's going to be brutal. We're going to give it a shot. I'm going to start with a big stab wound, hard into the abdomen. I'm trying to make a big area of approach so that I can get my hand in there. We're using a blue-color synthetic material to simulate blood. Here we go. I'm going to give it a shot. At this point, the victim may be going to shock, but the heart would still be beating. I'm reaching up there. I'm going as hard as I can. I've got my hand around the heart. I'm going to give a big tug. I've done it. It's very difficult, but using this approach, we can do it. Took me about a minute and a half. I think an Aztec priest who's practiced could do it in less than 30 seconds.
The legends of the Aztec sun god turn out to be plausible. The Aztecs really may have been able to cut out as many hearts as the conquistadors claimed in as little time. But the Aztec god of corn demanded an even bloodier gift to ensure the fertility of the fields. No culture in human history sacrificed as many victims to please the gods as the Aztecs. Yet for them, the act was an essential part of life in the universe.
The key to understanding human sacrifice is religion. It's not something that is done without a good deal of thought and preparation, and it's not taken lightly. It's not done out of malice. It's a very highly religious act.
In the Aztec faith, the gods continually sacrificed themselves for the good of the world, giving limbs and blood to set the sun in the sky and the ground underfoot. The god Totec cut off his own skin to give the people the crop they would die without: corn. What the god asked in return was not the heart, but skin, human skin. Aztec artwork shows the god literally wearing the skin of another person, the hands dangling, the skinned face turned into a mask. And to honor the god, Aztec priests made their own garments from human skin. At the spring equinox every year, captive warriors would be given to the priests of Totec. These priests were specially trained to remove human skin in one piece. Then they would wear it.
It was kind of a full body suit. The priest would wear that skin and walk around that very same day, so it hadn't dried out or anything like that. Very fresh.
Grisly as it was, this garment was meant to celebrate life, not death.
The idea of a flayed skin is one of regeneration and rebirth, believe it or not. The snake sheds its skin, and yet it's reborn. And so Totec is sort of the embodiment of this notion of fertility and rebirth.
The priests wore the skins for days to symbolize the living within the seemingly dead, as a seed might be germinating inside a dead corn husk. Finally, after 20 days, the skins would be destroyed.
There's a description of the sound of these skins, because when they dry out, they crackle, they crack. And it describes the loud noises that these skins are making as they're deposited in the great temple.
Not all sacrifices were as gruesome. In fact, each year a single captured warrior was given the honor of impersonating the god Tezcatlipoca, god of sorcery, warfare, and the night. Aztec priests carefully looked over their captives to choose the most perfect physical specimen to impersonate the god.
He's got to have a certain type of forehead, a certain type of nose. He cannot have a certain type of buttocks. It's a very detailed formula for choosing who's going to be the person sacrificed.
For a year, the chosen one is treated as a god, cheered in parades and processions. He wears the armor and headdress of Tezcatlipoca. He is taught to play the ritual flute, instrument of heaven. His body is painted blue-black, the color of the god. In the last month of his life, he is even given beautiful women to satisfy his godlike sexual appetite.
He's being treated this way in a sense to build up his spirit and energy so that when he dies, he is ready to be born again.
Then his time is up.